Hi guys, it's been a while. I'm only doing one call a week at the moment, but I'm sure there's lots of material for you guys to go through, except for AJ, who's watched everything. Today, I want to talk about Tourist Game because winter is coming, as George R. R. Martin, writer of Game of Thrones, would say. And it's a good time to leave your freezing countries and go to hot places. And I've been to a lot of hot places. I've now been to 29 countries. A handful of them were in Europe, but a lot of my countries were in hot places. Hot places like Mexico, Guatemala, Colombia, uh, all over Latin America, and a lot of Southeast Asia, including my favorite place in the world, Thailand. Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Taiwan, Bali, Indonesia, Bali, Indonesia. Hey, Yan. I'm just getting into it. I'm talking about tourist game. So I was just saying I've been around the world to a lot of hot countries, a lot of places in Southeast Asia and Latin America. And because winter's coming, I think it's a really great time for guys who love adventure, who love beautiful women to go traveling. I'm going to talk about two aspects of picking up girls in foreign countries, in particularly heavily touristed developing nations. Now, why go to developing nations? Why go to these poor countries? Well, because it's cheap. That's one of the main reasons people go to these places, and that's why you will find boatloads, literally, of young backpacker girls. Mostly girls that you're going to meet abroad are going to be that are prime real estate. Well, it used to be Russia and Ukraine. You could find them everywhere, but lately, because of circumstances, you can't find these girls very often, which is a real boon for me because they're some of my favorite. But you'll also find lots of German girls. Oh, mosquito. Oh. German girls, Dutch girls, French girls, Israelis, lots of Israeli girls, but they're near impossible for me anyway. But they're so beautiful. And of course, Americans, Australians, Canadians, any kind of girl you can think of. On top of that, you've got the locals. So one, you've got the tourist girls, and two, you've got the local girls, and they're kind of separate categories. First, let's talk about how do you pick up tourist girls in these places, tourist women. Well, I highly suggest that you stay in hostels. Now, if you can afford it, you can get a private room in a hostel because the biggest problem with hostels, let me explain what a hostel is. A hostel is a dorm bed based hotel where people they can sleep for a cheap rate and they sleep in dormitories. Some of these usually they're bunk beds, and usually you have two bunk beds, one on the top and one on the bottom. Sometimes you get open bunks where there's no curtains, but these days the vast majority of good hostels have curtains. Now, the curtains are great if you just need a cheap place to sleep, but you're going to have to meet most of the girls in the common room. So you want to find hostels with good common rooms. And how you do this is you go on booking.com or agoda.com and you look at the reviews and you look for reviews that say fun place, easy to meet people, great common room. Places that have a bar are really useful. And you have different types of hostels. You have party hostels and chill hostels. Party hostels attract a certain kind of girl. They're especially the ones with swimming pools. They're the girls that are more into drinking, having fun, partying. They want to hook up and meet guys. Most of these places, you're going to be expected to play party games and to do group tours and stuff like that. Everybody goes on pub crawls and stuff like that. The more chill hostels, you're going to meet girls in the common area, in the lobbies, and maybe in the dormitory. If there's no curtains, this makes it much easier to be social. Now, a lot of you guys are like, I don't want to be social. Well, I've met some really great friends in dormitories, and I'm not going to dissuade you from sleeping in them. The great thing about dormitories is that, yeah, one, you get to meet all the people, but two, it's just a high concentration of hot girls coming in and out every single day. Now, don't go for the cheapest hostel. Spend a little bit more. I find the more money, the more expensive the hostel, the hotter the girls are going to be. Now, here's my rule for picking up girls in hostels. You want to be the first one to meet the girl and the last one to meet the girl in the hostel. So in a place like Thailand, and Thailand's a huge country. I mean, there's islands, there's the north where you have mountains, but the hostels, they're everywhere throughout the country. My typical routine is I rent a room for a couple nights. I feel out the hostel, and if I like it, if it's a target-rich environment, then I get a private room, depending on the price of it. Sometimes it's double or triple the price of other as opposed to getting a hotel room or a guest house. In Asia, they have a lot of guest house, which is are more like they're more like family-run hotels. But you wait there in the lobby, you work on your laptop, you read a book, and when the new girls come in, you say hi right away. You open, 3 second rule. Oh, hey, how's it going? Welcome to the hostel. Where are you from? Just typical small talk like that. You don't want to sit there and wait because if you wait, there's some other guy that's going to be the first guy she meets. Girls hate being alone. Girls feel insecure being alone. They feel yeah, it's just a bit risky for them to travel alone. And they want to attach themselves to a group, and that's what most girls will do. So if you meet any girl outside of the hostel, say at the beach or walking around the city taking photos, and you talk to her, she's going to say, oh, I have to meet my friends for dinner, or I have to meet my friends. We're going on a trip to the waterfall or to go see the art gallery, whatever. Her friends are the first people she met at the hostel. So when the girls come in, you say hello, you get social with them, and hopefully you know the place already. And you say, hey, have you seen this? Have you seen that? Do you have a scooter? If you're in Asia or Latin America, you should rent a scooter. The first thing you do when you come to any new place is you go and you find where the 125cc scooters are and you rent one. You rent one. You drive around and you go see all of the different, you go check out all the different tourist places. Hey, bro, good to see you here. I'm talking about tourist game, picking up girls when you're traveling. So you drive around, you check out all the different tourist activities, and or you at least look at a map or talk to some of the locals, or you talk to the hostel staff. Say, hey, where's the waterfalls? Where's the stuff? So when the girls show up in the hostel, you say, hey, have you seen this waterfall? Have you been to the art gallery? Have you been to the museum? Whatever. Now, once they're going to say no because they obviously have just arrived. The next question you ask is, hey, do you have a scooter? Most girls don't know how to drive a scooter. So if you don't know how to drive a scooter, it's not that hard. Just rent one, go somewhere where the traffic's not too bad and learn. But a girl's going to feel much safer being on a scooter with a confident guy who's confident in driving than going by herself or spending a lot of money to rent a taxi to take her everywhere. So, no, I haven't. I haven't seen the waterfall. That's what they usually say. Oh, great. Oh, I'm going in like 10 minutes. Do you want to come with me? Right? Or you say half an hour, 1 hour, whatever. What you want to do, what you want to do is get her out of the hostel. You don't want her to you don't want her to stay in the hostel. Hey, Peter, we're just talking about picking up girls in hostels for backpackers and traveling around the world.
Okay. All right. All right.
Yeah. A bunch of people have come in and left. I don't know why, but you can stay or you can watch the recording later. It's up to you. But anyway, so you want to be the first person that she meets in the hostel and the last person. So you get her on your bike, you get her out of the hostel. As soon as she comes in, you say hello, you introduce yourself. You don't need to spit a lot of game, but just be friendly and just say, hey, have you seen this? Have you seen the waterfall? Have you seen the museum? Have you seen the whatever? Have you done the walking tour? Whatever the things are in that place. She's going to say, no, 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 no. Then you say, do you have a scooter? If it's a place where you rent scooters. No, well, I'm going in about 10 minutes or I'm going in an hour. Why don't you come with me? And that's how you get them out. Right. Now, you don't want to bring them back to the hostel if possible. Ideally, you want to go out, do the things, have fun, and run game on her, touch her a lot, get intimate, get close to her. And then hopefully if you get to that stage where you know it's on with this girl, you bring your passport with you because you can't rent a hotel or a guest house without your passport in most countries. You don't bring her back because guess what happens if you bring her back to the hostel? Oh, beer pong time, right? And then every thirsty Australian dude with a six pack is going to be there playing beer pong, and she's going to ditch you. I guarantee it. She's going to see the next shiny thing and ditch you. So you get her out of the hostel. You run game on her. You go do the tourist shit like the waterfalls. You have an adventure. Then you go for drinks and dinner. You have dinner and you have some drinks. Once she's had a couple drinks, you say, "Oh, you know what? I can't drive. Why don't we just rent this place and we can crash here for a bit? We can hang out. Don't worry, I got it." Most places in these countries you can rent a room for 10 bucks, 20 bucks, 30 bucks. Not a big deal, right? So, what if you meet two girls? This is much, much harder. Ideally, you want to find one girl traveling by herself. And that's why you have to be the first one she meets when she comes to the hostel. Because as soon as she comes in there, she's probably going to start talking to people and she's going to latch on to someone because hot girls hate being alone. It's dangerous for them to travel alone. That's the general feeling for women. And there's going to be loads of guys in there that have game. They're going to be sitting around just like you. So you get her out and you get her on your bike, and then you go have fun. You have a few drinks and you rent a room, right? And the way I get to rent a room is I will actually say, "Hey, you know what? I'm thinking of renting myself a room. Let me just go check this place out. Just come with me while I check it out." You go into the hotel, you ask how much it is. She'll be with you. And if it's a good room and if she seems kind of into it, by this time you should know if it's a little bit on. You should be having fun. Maybe you've even kissed her by now. Then you just rent the room. You say, "Hey, I've got the room. Why don't we hang out? Why don't we hang out for a while? Why don't we go take a nap? Why don't we just," and a lot of girls, if they like you, they'll say, "Yeah, sure." They'd rather stay with you if they're into you. They've had a great time with you than go back to the hostel dormitory where they don't know anybody. But if you've met her a day into her stay, there's no way because she's going to be like, "Oh, I have to see my friends." And again, her friends are the people she just met at the hostel before you. This is why it's super critical to be the first guy that she meets. There was one place in Thailand on an island called Koh Chang. And I literally knew where the bus stop was, where every single bus coming from the port would drop the tourists off in this place called Lonely Beach. And there's a cafe right in front of a restaurant. I would sit there all day and literally introduce myself to every girl that got off with her backpack. "Hey, how's it going? Have you seen the waterfalls? Have you seen the thing? Do you have a scooter? Oh, I'll show you around town." Make friends with them right away. Not even in the hostel yet. Now, what if you meet a girl in the hostel and she has to go back? You have to go back and maybe she wants to play beer pong and all this stuff. This is when you tell her, "Hey, you know what? I don't think you should stay in the dorm tonight. I'm going to rent a private room. Why don't you stay with me?" That way she's going to say yes or no, right? If she says yes, great. You go, you rent the room, you pull her up to the room. If she says no, then you don't have to spend money on the room, right? In a desperate situation, you can fuck her in the dorm. I find this really annoying when people fuck in dormitories because it wakes everybody up, it annoys everybody, and it could get you kicked out of the hostel, but people still do it. Or you can go in the shower. And how do you get her in the shower? You say, "Hey, let's go for a shower together." That's it. You risk her saying, "No way, I'm not going in the shower with you," or she's going to say, "Yeah, okay, let me grab my stuff." That happens too. And that's the gist of it. Then there's outside the hostel, you've got tourist girls in every city walking around. That's typical stuff. You just go up to them, you approach them, you run game. You can go direct, you can go to indirect. But hostels are the best place because every hour on the hour, you got new girls coming in and new girls going out, and it's really easy to meet chicks. Now, let's talk about locals. It's a bit different. Peter, you've done a bit of traveling now, man. Um, who did you find it easier to meet, locals or tourists?
Tourists definitely, because
Yeah.
they're like more casual, whereas the locals would be like, you know, restrained and don't want people to see them hanging out with some strangers.
Yeah, tourists are in also the travel mindset. So if you approach, say, you go to New York and you approach some local, she's got her friends from school, her friends from work, her family, priorities. She's got to go to the gym at 6. She's got to do her shit, right? And then you come along. Now she's got to think, how can I maybe fit this new guy? I don't know him into my life, into my schedule. It's a lot harder. You need a lot more leads. A girl who just flew across the world, maybe she's in her 20s. She's in a new country. She doesn't know anybody. It's exciting. It's fun. Her mood is already up. and you all have something in common. You're all travelers, so it makes it really, really easy to hook. The problem with travel chicks is you have a very limited window because tomorrow she's going to the next town. Maybe you have 1 day, maybe 2 days. If you do fall in love, you have a little travel romance. You could travel together, but maybe you're a slow mad like me. I'm slow mad. Like I rent a room for a month in a place, and I'm not meeting a lot of tourist chicks. So in that case, you've got locals. Now, a local in New York City is going to be a lot different than a local in Medellin, Colombia, or Vietnam, right? So what you have is the foreigner effect. The foreigner effect is you're this new shiny guy from a wealthy country, you're exotic. That's the advantage you have. The disadvantage is they know you're a tourist. They've all seen tourists. Some of them have fucked tourists, and they know that you're probably only here for a few days. A lot of guys, they get on Tinder or Bumble and they start swiping, and you can get dates like that. But the first thing almost every girl asks is, how long are you here for? Now, if you say, I'm here for 3 days or I'm here for a week, you're screwed. I'm not saying you should lie, but you can bend the truth a little bit. What I like to say is, I just moved here. I'm just checking out the city to find out if I like it for long term. That's kind of the truth in a lot of ways, right? Or they say, are you here for work? That's another thing I'll ask, whether you meet them in person or online. Are you here for work? Yes. That's all I say. If they dig deeper, what's your work? I tell them, well, I'm a online marketing specialist, or I'm a digital nomad, or I'm a writer, or whatever it is. If you have to go home or you're unemployed or anything, you can just say, I work online. That's like the easiest answer. I work online. I live wherever I want. Right now, I live here. What are you looking for? That's another thing they usually ask. My go-to answer is true love and 7 children. That always makes them laugh because that's a stupid question. What are you looking for? It's like, man, I just met you, or I haven't even met you if it's online. If you pass all of these really common questions from online, you just want to push for the WhatsApp or Zalo or whatever the local thing is. Get off of Tinder and get onto uh, some other app, and then right away, all you're doing is meet me, meet me, meet me, meet me. I'd say about 90% of chicks will flake out. Doesn't matter how good looking you are, your age, your race. Most chicks will flake out regardless. I found it's just my experience. But some will meet you, and then it's just game as usual, right? Sometimes they bring friends, sometimes they come alone. A lot of these girls are not going to bang you on the first date, but if they like you, then it's game on. And that's about it, man. That's it. When you're traveling, you got tourists or locals. Locals want to know if you're going to stay. Tourists, they're only here for 1 or 2 days. And then you got to make a choice whether you're going to travel with them and how hard you're going to work to bang them. My biggest advice is be the first person the tourist girl meets at the hostel and the last guy she meets at the hostel. Because if you bring her back for beer pong or a pool party, if you're in a party hostel, you're in big trouble. Because there's always some guy with better game than you. There's always some guy. And she's going to feel an emotional connection, an emotional bond to the first guy she meets. And you, they'll try to find ways out of it. A lot of girls you'll be like, let's go to the waterfall. And she'll be like, I'm going to the bathroom. She'll run off and find another chick to come with you, or another guy. Hey, everybody, I'm going to the hostel. Like that's happened to me before. That's real pain. Ideally, you just want to get her out of there. That's the biggest piece of advice. The other piece of advice is have a scooter if you're in Colombia, Mexico, a place where you can rent a scooter for $5 or $10 a day. Always have a bike because young girls are cheap. They don't want to spend much money. That's why they're staying in hostels. They're staying there to meet people and because they don't have money. So you're a guy she met and you have some money to rent a bike. Yeah, you're golden, right? Just remember to bring your passport because you don't want to bring her back. That's the last thing you want to do. What else can I say about tourist game? I don't know. Peter, you've been traveling a lot, man. I mean, what did you learn about it? I know you're kind of still practicing your cold approaches and whatnot, but do you have any epiphanies?
I think you have to bank on um the curiosity and the emotions in the moment. So move fast, I guess, but don't
Yeah.
be too desperate. So that's what I find.
Yeah, you have to move fast. That's the thing is a lot of guys are way too slow or they don't want to make that move like go to kiss her or try to escalate because they're scared they're going to get rejected. But dude, you're only going to get this one shot, really. Unless she's a local. If she's a local chick, like you can get another shot. Like a lot of the girls I dated in foreign countries, a lot of them I met online, some I met from day game, but I never hooked up with any of them on the first date. It was always the second or even the third date. Whereas with tourists, I fucked tourists in an hour after meeting them, daytime and nighttime, because everyone's in that like, oh my God, I'm in this foreign country. This is so exciting. Things kind of move faster and stuff. And so you got to be able to capitalize on that. And the thing is with tourists, like if you go to a place like Bali, there's so many freaking girls or Th Thailand in the high season. If you don't make it with this girl, you can easily go find another one. The problem is that the girls will get into travel pods. I call them travel pods, like pods of whales, and they'll attach themselves to people. My friends, the people she just met, she calls them her friends. And then it's really hard to peel them out of that group once they're in the group. So find out where the chicks are coming in and get them right away and get them out of there, out of that situation where they can meet other guys or other girls. The girls will cock block you too. And that's about it. How you doing, Peter? What
Are
time
we
is
still
it?
recording?
Yeah.
I'm okay. I'm just approaching here and there. Um, yeah, not much result though.
You
So
you still
they're
working
getting
at
better,
it?
I think. Getting better? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nice. Where have you improved?
So yeah, still figuring out things.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll stop the recording. Adios, guys. Until next week.